Hello. So I'm Claire from Grief Conversations with Claire. I'm a grief coach, grief educator and speaker. I am a bereaved sibling, granddaughter, doggy mum and other losses that do not have the titles that go with the relationships and what they meant to me and how impactful they were for me as well. I'm doing a series at the moment on different types of grief. So today we're going to be talking about traumatic grief. And please do not compare your grief with someone else's grief. It's not a competition. We all have our own worst loss, and that's the worst for us. This is also not about labeling, but it is giving you some language for having conversations and communicating and understanding what might be occurring for you. Most of us will have losses that go over over some of the different types of grief. I certainly do. So within this series, I'm hoping it will give you an understanding of those two or several different types of things. So today we're talking about traumatic grief, and I am continuing to make a Bakewell tart. So the video that I recorded just before this, I made the pastry base, and the conversation I was having with you was around inconclusive grief. The pastry base is now being baked, and I have my cherry jam in there, and I've got my frangipan here that I will be spreading over this in a little bit. So with traumatic grief, the loss can happen under very dramatic or traumatic circumstances. Shock is definitely one of the most strongest emotions that come through, because there was just no expectation of what was happening. It's not like an illness with anticipatory grief where you have some kind of lead up and warning. There is just nothing. Like 1 second it was like this, the next second it's like this. Emergency services people can experience traumatic grief. So even though they don't have a relationship with the person, what they're seeing and experiencing and seeing the person having experienced if they have died or are experiencing if they are critically injured, they can suffer traumatic grief as well. Witnessing the accident of a loved one or seeing them be worked on by medical professionals can also cause us to have traumatic grief as well. Long-term illnesses where there's multiple treatments along the way and say rounds of chemo or something else, you can experience chronic traumatic grief. I certainly feel like I experienced that with Lisa's 6-year cancer journey, because we would go rounds of treatment. The treatment either worked for a period of time or didn't work, and then it was on to what was going to be the next one and what would that look like, and it just all compounds. There is a piece within where when grief and trauma is combined, all trauma has grief, but not all grief has trauma. But both have a sense of loss. So what I mean within that is, when there is a traumatic death, you've got the trauma and the grief. When there is a death from, say, someone passing at older age and from natural causes, there is trauma. Sorry, there is grief there, but there is not trauma present with that. Trauma can come from frequency, so that could be multiple deaths that occur quite quickly together. It can come from the intensity, so like I mentioned earlier, is from if you witnessed an accident or something along those lines, and then the duration, which is your long-term illnesses and ongoing seeking of medical interventions. What's one of the things that helps with this is to separate out the two parts. So when you've got and processing them separately, so then you can process the trauma of what you experienced and what the person experienced. Because we all want, really at the end of the day, for ourselves and our loved ones, is to us to live all to a ripe old age and to pass away kind of sleeping, maybe watching our favorite program or during the night, and it to have not suffered any illnesses. And then you get the grief that's on this side, which is the processing of the loss of your loved one. They are no longer alive. You've got none of the experiences you were hoping to have, and they get to have none of those experiences that you would have liked them to have had, and then the memories made within those. So you get the two. Now, if you can work on one and then work on the other at different times, that all helps, because we can't work on things all combined. It just doesn't, our brains kind of can't process it, so it's separating out the two for us to be able to do our work on it. Self-regulation can be really, really hard in trauma, because you're always going to be wondering what's the next thing, and where's the next shot going to come from, and what's going to happen. And that can make it really, really hard to process it. Compassion is one of your best friends when it comes to that, and being able to move through all the feelings, understand all the feelings, and start healing. The other pieces is having your story witnessed, and this comes with the traumatic piece mostly, but it also comes with grief as well. And that's the true witnessing of your story and your experience, where you've got someone who will listen to you and fully hear you, maybe doesn't have any of the shared experience that you had, so that they don't impart anything on there for you and be like, oh my goodness, I remember that too, and they remember it very differently. You need your story, your experience, all of your emotions being able to be shared. What you don't want to do is re-traumatize yourself, and that can happen where we're seeking to find the person that we can share it with, and so you keep telling the story over and over and over again, and there's no healing occurring, and then it's also re-traumatizing yourself. So it's finding someone that can truly witness it for you and can hear your story on that side. So that's a little bit for you guys on traumatic grief. I am going to go ahead and finish up my Bakewell tart. And the next topic I'm going to talk to you about is around ambiguous grief. And that is something that is ambiguous, and that you have difficulty within that. And again, it's difficulty that is different. No, there's no hierarchy or anything else. It's just different hard. So keep watching. Like and subscribe, and the reason I ask you to do that is you let us, I say us and all the folks that are on YouTube, let us know how we're doing and whether this is helpful to you. And then for you, if you like and subscribe, then you are also ensuring that you get this in your feed for the next episode, because as I mentioned, there is a very high likelihood that you will have different types of grief, and being able to label it and be able to have conversations around it and what you're experiencing is really, really important. Drop any questions below, and then what I will do is I will align answering those up to the most applicable video, or I will do a roundup one at the end of the series. So take very good care of you, and till the next one. Bye.